Good evening, this is the Tuesday, August 19, 2025 meeting of the Town of South Windsor Planning and Zoning Commission. Start by having the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so just a reminder, and I'll do it myself, everybody please silence your cell phones. And since this is already, there's no public hearing, we're going straight into our regular meeting. I'm going to seat Commissioner Kupchunas for Commissioner Foley. And we will proceed. I was not at the July 22 meeting, although I did listen to it online. Are there any comments on the minutes? Have you had a chance to look at them? So we'll approve them by consensus?
Sure. Yep.
Okay, and now it's time for public participation. So public participation is for anything which is not on the agenda. Anybody from the public here? We have quite a few. Anything you want to comment on? Okay. So now we're going to move into application 2535 Pete's RV temporary and conditional. Oh, that's right. I forgot to seat someone for Alan.
I don't think we have anybody.
We didn't have anybody anyway. So,
Sits for Alan.
is there anyone here from Pete's RV?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, come stand here, please.
Here?
Yeah.
That's good.
Oh, that's your picture there, so.
Oh, we're here.
There.
So introduce yourself and sign in, please.
Sure. David Gould, 395 John Fitch Boulevard. Just here to renew my temporary and conditional permit for Pete's RV parking.
And do you have anything to say other than you want to renew?
No, everything's the same, so it's every 2 years, been, probably going on.
Hopefully later in this meeting, we'll make it easier for you to renew.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I think you're staying for a while, so.
We're gonna allow the staff, if we pass the change, we'll allow the staff to do the review without necessarily, unless, you know, there's an issue in making anyone come in here.
Sure.
You have any comments from our staff?
I do have a brief report that I'll just put into the record. So this is a request for renewal of a 2-year temporary conditional permit for the storage of campers on approximately about half acre over on Route 5, 395 John Fitch. It's on the northerly side of Chapel Road in John Fitch in our general commercial zone. This was originally approved in July of 2019 with approval up to 35 campers. This is a site is adjacent to Pete's RV business, which is along Route 5. The reason this is a temporary conditional permit is because it is a freestanding lot that has storage on it, and that is not a permitted use in the general commercial zone. So we do allow for the sale and storage of them, we just don't allow a lot to be without a building on it, so that's the reason. So that site has currently been vacant and has historically had an automotive use on it back in the 80s and 90s, I'm thinking, a long time ago.
Yeah.
So there's an existing driveway into the site which is not used. They do traverse along Route 5 frontage, golf cart to look at the RVs and whatnot. The wording of our temporary conditional permit states that they may be granted by the commission for a period not to exceed 2 years. Approval is given after a public hearing. If in the judgment of the commission, the public convenience and welfare will be substantially served, and appropriate use of neighboring properties will not be substantially permanently injured, and traffic and other hazards will not result from such use. We have not had any concerns expressed about this use, so staff would recommend reading.
Any comments from commissioners?
There were nobody pressed a button in here, did they? tax office is upstairs, right?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, just got an alarm call, that's all.
Okay.
All right, we'll check on it.
Everything okay with you?
Any comments? In that case, seeing none, is a motion would be in
Should be
order.
on the backside, yeah.
Steve, before we do that, this question generally does get asked. Any changes?
No changes.
Everything
whatsoever.
stays exactly as it is?
Yes, sir.
And I guess living around the corner from it, passing it every day, Michelle, I would just have, be curious if there's been any complaints about anything?
No, there haven't been, I've been by there a couple times, they're kept pretty orderly, so
Yeah.
nobody seems to have any concern with it.
All right, that's all I have.
So make a motion?
Mhm.
I'd like to make a motion to approve application 25-35P, Pete's RV Storage Temporary and Conditional Permit. This is a permit that will expire on August 19th, 2027, and will have to be renewed at that time if the use is to continue.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing that hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you, everyone.
See you in 2 years. Maybe.
Oh, no,
So excited.
Maybe.
maybe not. Okay, now we move on to, application 2531P, USA Hauling and Recycling, CNG Fueling Station. There was originally an offer for us to come visit a similar site. We decided we'd want to hear about it here first. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
So please introduce yourself and sign in.
All right, good evening. My name is Kevin Grendel, associate with the firm of Barton and Judas. I will, if you don't mind, if I can step in front here, this is a smart board that I can,
Sure, absolutely.
excellent. I was geared for the big room upstairs, preparing myself to point across the room, so this is a luxury. All right, so,
We like it down here because we can actually hear what people say.
I like it down here too, so I can actually see and engage with you guys and not have to, again, shout across an open room. All right, so for orientation purposes, the application, I dropped everything on the floor. Application this evening is for 600, 602, and 570 Nutmeg Road. As materials that were presented as part of the application, as well as the amended and revised plans and application materials. The applicant's MR South Windsor Properties, better known as USA Hauling, and representatives from USA Hauling as well as Clean Energy are here with me this evening, and can engage with commission members as well as part of this presentation. So, orientation, the plan that you've got in front of you is the same plan that's up on the screen. Nutmeg Road by orientation is left, and that's west. We've got 600 Nutmeg Road, 602, which is a rear lot, and 570, which is south, and nicely enough in this configuration, planned south as well as sheet south. So bottom page is 570. So USA's current facility on these three properties are combined for one existing building in the front on 600, one existing building on the rear at 602, and then the majority of the truck parking related to their hauling activities on 570. We received wetlands approval on July 16th. So on this plan, you will see wetlands and upland review areas highlighted. But again, that wetland approval was received last month. So what the application is, and a narrative I will generally follow that was part of the application package too. So What the application is, USA Hauling is proposing a natural gas fueling compound for their own vehicles, a fueling station for their own vehicles. So, as part of this application, there is no additional vehicle trips, no additional traffic, no additional trucks, no additional employees. That's usually one of the kind of the catch-alls that I want to get out first and, out front, out ahead of first and foremost here. This facility is just serving their existing fleet of trucks that are currently on this property. So what you see here, the area that the trucks are parking in today, or where the trucks are going to be parking in once this fueling station is complete. What this is, and again, I'll let Mike go into further detail as far as the facility and the compound itself, and one of the additional slides here in the back of the packet has that blow up, but just kind of touching in some of the highlights for the site plan component and planning and zoning component here. Existing truck parking here, that's where the proposed trucks, or that's where the trucks will continue to be parked. The fueling operations will be highlighted in this area as well, so it's a slow fuel station, so the trucks will be fueled overnight, so the parking facility will also be the fueling areas. This area here is adjacent to the existing paved areas, both for the maintenance facilities and transfer facilities in the back. You will see parking highlighted. Again, all of these areas are existing parking, both for trucks, their drivers, their employees, their mechanics, and so on. Again, everybody that goes to the site today will continue to do so, so there's no change in configuration there. What we're also proposing as part of this plan is on top left. You do see a new egress driveway out onto Nutmeg Road. That allows for better truck movement and vehicle movement on site. One of those housekeeping items that has been nice to have for a while, and as part of this application, makes sense to propose it at this time, rather than coming back in for items so minor as that. So you will see that as part of our narrative. That new outbound driveway, again, this is the full service entrance on site here, coming off Nutmeg. That will remain full service. It just provides one additional means of access, or means of exit for the trucks. Not part of this application, but I think useful comment is that we are currently undergoing a biological study with our wetland and biologist in regards to a potential future new access coming out further south on property, also owned by USA. So with all hopes, you will be seeing us back in the next few months once that biological survey is done and we've been cleared for the endangered species, endangered sedges on this property. That is ongoing and should be wrapped up this month or next. So we anticipate, so far we've gotten good feedback from our staff, but again, we wanted to get out ahead of this so the fueling compound could get into construction. We didn't have the opportunity to wait until the driveway was ready to come through. But again, just kind of giving you the bigger picture, understanding that when we met with staff on a preliminary basis back in April, that was on the table. We were discussing that as a potential driveway. So just wanted to kind of close the loop there. The other item that you do see on the plan is this red highlighted area between the two buildings. You will see, and forgive me if I can, is it just scanning or sliding or?
I think the arrow down at the bottom right.
Let's do this. Excellent. Same plan, same labels. What you see under it is an aerial photo at this point, better highlighting the existing buildings and parking areas. Forgive me, I could have started with this plan. What you see in red in the middle is an open detention basin currently, and that detention basin is open air. It's about a quarter of an acre, about 13,000 square foot open air detention basin. As part of our wetlands approval, our soil scientist and biologist identified that there were no species of concern in that basin, effectively a dead basin, if you will, really just for stormwater purposes. What we're doing with this application is proposing to convert that open basin into underground storage. And that is the stormwater calculations that were presented to the town and reviewed by now the new town engineer, although I think Jeff also had some review of that. What our proposal is to utilize the existing area and effectively in kind put it underground. Simplifying that, yes, there's a lengthy stormwater management report that was submitted, but for all intents and purposes, all the pipes that come into that basin now will continue to come into that basin. Right now, there is no pretreatment, no hydrodynamic structures, if you will. We're proposing to add 2 of those structures. You see those on either side of the basin here, and then direct water into underground storage to be held on site and then discharged through the existing outlet structure on the southwest of that pond and out into the street system. So the stormwater management report also indicates there's no increase in flows as part of this. Really, our intent was simply, again, kind of one of those housekeeping items that the basin only serves the function of stormwater detention and retention. So the anticipation is to put it underground so that there's additional vehicle maneuvering area. You do see the proximity to both buildings and all the operations. There's also an existing truck scale immediately adjacent to that pond. So just providing a greater level of flexibility and usability, if you will, within the effectively high-value area between those buildings. We thought it was the right time to do so. Again, one of those housekeeping items that has been on the list, but it comes to the top of the list now that we have the fueling station as part of this application. So with that, I will ask for the review. Mike, if you want to step up, go over the clean energy component of how the compound operates.
Yeah.
And so on.
I gotta sign in, right?
As Mike is signing in, this overall aerial, I think, is good for this conversation. It also provides kind of order of magnitude of where we are on Nutmeg Road. With dimensions to this here is the fueling compound. There we go. A little heavy-handed on the scroll. Fueling compound here, again, orientation, the 3 properties that we're talking about. You'll see that compound is approximately 500 feet from Nutmeg Road. It's 130 feet from the closest property line, and that's the treed, vegetated westerly property line that also contains a second open-top detention basin. I think the critical path here is also looking at 2,370, roughly 2,400 feet to the nearest residence adjacent to our properties. So understanding kind of the magnitude of the impact of this of the facility that we're talking about. Minor in nature in regards to any concern for off-property. Understanding we've got about 13 acres, and you'll see generally it's smack in the middle of those 13 acres. And forgive me, Mike, as I said to you before, I would mention the noise levels of your facility. You can go into more detail on this, but just for the commission's sake, it's also in the narrative. Understanding kind of one of the impacts and one of the concerns for facilities like this is, what is the audible impact to the neighbors? As the narrative said, and as the information that we submitted said, it's approximately 60 decibels at a foot and 50 decibels at 10 feet. And Mike can go into details of what is that noise generator. But roughly speaking, it's an idling car at 10 feet away. So when we start talking about property lines to 130 and over 500 feet and residences to almost 2,400 feet, a very, very minor in nature impact to the overall noise. So with that.
Sure. All right, can we just go back to the, do you have that compound? Oh, actually, go back to the first slide you had. All right, perfect.
There you go.
All right, good.
So Mike, your last name?
Mike Cecere, with Clean Energy. So we build and operate natural gas fueling stations. I've been with Clean Energy. Thank you, everyone, for your time. I've been with Clean Energy 18 years. I've been working with USA Hauling for over 15 years. We built their first station in 2010 in Hartford. Then we did New Haven. Then we did East Windsor. And then we did Oakville. So this is our 5th natural gas fueling station with USA Hauling. Very proactive company. Why do you run natural gas? Garbage trucks, tractor trailers, transit buses. They're cleaner. They reduce greenhouse gas emissions and NOx by 90%. They're quieter. They're 90% quieter than diesel garbage trucks. There's no traps. There's no filters. There's no urea to meet emission standards that diesel trucks have to add on to their trucks. Truly domestic. So you have American trucks running on a truly American fuel. We don't have to rely on foreign sources for natural gas. We are the Saudi Arabia of natural gas. And it's less expensive. on a per gallon basis and to operate it, because you take all of that diesel after treatments off the trucks. So it's a lot less technology included. This is not a new technology. It's not EV. It's not hydrogen. We've been in business building natural gas fueling stations for over 25 years. We've built over 600 of them. This will be our 5th station with USA Hauling. And again, we build stations for Waste Management, UPS, Amazon, FedEx, so all the major players. So again, not a new technology by any means. So what we're looking to build here is a private natural gas fueling station, no public. As Kevin mentioned, the same 35 trucks that are parking here today are going to be parking in the same exact parking spaces. All we're doing is, Eversource has a gas line here. Well, let me back up a step. So we're using the same gas that you use to heat this building or turn on the stove at your home. All we're doing is compressing it. So Eversource has a 25-pound gas line. Sorry about that. A 25-pound gas line here. They're going to bring it down this road right to our compressor compound. In our compressor compound, we have two 200 horsepower compressors. We have a dryer and we have storage. What happens is we take that 25 pounds, it goes through the dryer and it takes all the moisture out of the gas, which is in all gas lines. So we get it nice and dry before it goes into the trucks. So we dry it, we put it through the compressors, we take that 25 pounds and we compress it to 4,000 pounds, and we fuel up the trucks at 3,600 pounds. That's a full fill on each truck. So, but the good part about this private time fill station is there's a lot of downtime on garbage trucks. They're usually out early in the morning, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, and they get back late afternoon, early evening. And then they sit for, 12 hours. So we take advantage of that. So instead of the diesel trucks, what happens with diesel trucks at the end of the day, a lot of time garbage trucks, they leave at the same time, and typically they come in around the same time. So on diesel garbage trucks, what you have is queuing at the end of the day. You got 35 trucks lined up to get its turn with diesel, fueling up with diesel. At the end of the day, all the driver has to do is pull up into its parking spot, hook up a hose to the front of the truck, and walks away. Our compressors are scheduled to turn on. We can schedule it both ways. We can schedule it to turn on once the first truck hooks up or once all the trucks hook up. And then all the trucks will be fueled up at the same time. So every truck has a full, ready to go every morning. The compressors will not be running all night long. It'll take these 200 horsepower compressors, put out around 4 to 5 gallons a second. Over 60, so this will take, for 35 trucks, their trucks usually burn around 40 to 50 gallons a day. We will fuel up all 35 trucks, let's say on the high side, 50 gallons a day, over 6 to 7 hours. So it's not running all night. What else do we have here? All safety throughout the compound. There's methane detectors. If there's ever a leak, station shuts down. There's ESDs at each gate of the compressor compound, every 15 feet along the K-rail.
What's an ESD?
Emergency shutdown. So if a truck doesn't disconnect, actually now the new technology is the truck won't start unless the hose is disconnected, which is a great feature. Because they're leaving early in the morning, sometimes that did happen. The driver forgets to disconnect and he just pulls away with the hose. But even if that happened, it's all quick disconnect. It would disconnect, natural gas is lighter than air, there's no pooling or contamination to the ground floor, the station would shut down. If there was ever a leak within the compressor compound, methane detectors would sense it and automatically shut the station down. Am I forgetting anything?
If you toggle through, there's a couple photos and then the enlargement of your compound.
Oh, I just want to emphasize this. So our compressors are like a hum. If you look at the DBA, it's like a humming noise or a toilet flushing. In New Haven and Oakville, we are much closer to neighbors. And they have never, Jonathan could vouch for this, they've never had a noise complaint. So it's like a humming, it's on, depending on how the trucks come in, how much fuel they need. Like I said, it could be running 4, 5, 6 hours. I think 6 hours, 7 hours would be tops if they come in empty. But it's not running all night long, and it's a humming. And this, we're not close to really anybody here. And again, the trucks, on the truck side, they're 90% quieter than diesel trucks. So these trucks is a significant benefit to USA Hauling servicing the residents of South Windsor. Not only do you have much cleaner trucks on the road, you have much quieter trucks on the road operating through your district. Yeah, I'm going the wrong way. So this is East Windsor, and this is the compressor compound. This is the local utility, Eversource. Gas line comes up, it goes through the dryer, and these are the same exact compressors. So these are two 200 horsepower compressors. Eversource gas line goes through the dryer, goes into the compressor, and then these are storage. The storage, it looks like there's a lot of storage, above ground storage. There isn't. So this is just basically used as a buffer to reduce electric costs. So instead of having two 200 horsepower compressor hard start, and that electric demand spikes, as the first truck connects, the storage depletes, one compressor will soft start, and if the second compressor is needing, that will also soft start. So that storage is just used to reduce electric demand costs. What do we have? Anything else?
Next slide is the KRL.
Next slide. Oh, this is what the time fill posts look like. So each parking spot has a post with a hose on it. All the driver does at the end of the day, pulls in the truck, hooks up the hose, and walks away. And the compressors are set to kick on at certain times. They could be set either, a couple of scenarios we do, they're either set to turn on once the first truck connects, or like 5 minutes after off-peak electric hours. So if, let's say in this area, electric cost gets reduced after 7 o'clock, that's typically a time. We would set our compressors to turn on at 7:05, just to cut down on electric costs. Any questions?
Is this your presentation?
Yep, we can turn over to questions now. I can
Oh, well, what we'll do now is let our staff comment on this, Michelle, or,
So this is a request for site plan approval to construct a natural gas filling station, other associated improvements at 570, 600, and 602 Nutmeg Road, about 13 acres in total in our industrial zone. So the existing recycling facility originally approved in the 1980s, later expanded the operation building to the east, so the existing detention basin sometime in the 90s. Now requesting to add the natural gas facility to serve the current fleet of vehicles. As we heard, there aren't any new trucks being introduced here. Other site improvements include the exit drive on the north side of the site, converting the existing detention basin into detention area. Because of the previous development pattern on this, the property lines, you have some cross-travel easements, you have drainage easements, a lot of intermixing of the uses here. For example, the parking is over property lines. This does create a little bit of a zoning challenge as a part of the zoning requirements. You'll see in your report down there, they're going to be combining two of the lots so that they can meet their impervious coverage requirement. That also takes care of the shared parking requirements and whatnot. So with this application, we will be looking for, I think it's 600 and 602 would be combined as one building lot, and 570 would remain as a secondary building lot.
Correct.
So that's one change that will be occurring. As shown on the plans, they are showing your fueling station on concrete pad with bollards around it. That is on a separate lot that does conform with all your setback requirements. They're calling for wheel stops for the trucks to be fueled. There are some dumpsters that currently exist on that portion of the site from previous use on the site that will remain, will not be impeded at all by this new activity on the site. You did mention the detention basin being filled. Just a question, you're not gonna be storing product on it, it's really just for maneuvering of trucks and whatnot?
That is correct,
Something
just enhanced maneuvering between the two buildings.
Okay, this wasn't quite clear on that. The other thing I mentioned, they did get wetlands approval on July 16th. There were 2 bonds required, the $5,000 for the erosion sedimentation and $10,000 for stormwater structures on the site. We have had the fire marshal and building official review the plans. They don't have any comments on the site layout. They will review certainly the detailed building plans at the time of the building permit. So if this application's, the one other thing I wanted to mention is the lighting plan. We did ask the applicant to address some comments on the lighting plan that was submitted. They still remain unresolved, so we would suggest, if the commission does choose to move forward with approval, an approval condition that the lighting be worked out with staff. We just wanna make sure that the lighting levels are kind of consistent with what we typically look for, and that we're not exceeding lighting levels at the property lines, so, that would be a suggested, approval modification if you move forward with this.
Can I just explain the light real quick?
Sure.
So we're just looking to install one light at the compressor compound, and that's only for our service technicians. When they're working on equipment, and let's say the sun's going down, they need a light to work on the compressors. That's the only reason why we put a light at the compressor compound. Whatever requirements you need or
That's fine.
want,
Yeah, I think that that row there is gonna get replaced with other lights, and we'll just work with you on,
Okay.
levels and, brightness, that kind of thing, so. And then the other thing too would be to have a new deed go on file combining the property, to be in conformance with zoning, and there are some just minor tweaks to the zoning table to bring it into conformance with the combination of the new lots, so those things would be looked for part of the approval.
Now, there was an offer for us to visit a similar site in East
This
Windsor.
site?
In East Windsor, before we, but why don't we go around and see if there are any questions, and then we discuss whether we wanna schedule a visit like that. So, we'll start with Commissioner Kupchinas.
No questions, but very interesting how that process works. It's
oh,
pretty
cool,
cool.
thanks.
Agree, very interesting, but I don't have any questions this time.
I have a few. Hours of operation? Would be what?
Well, our trucks usually, Jonathan Murray with All American Waste in USA. Our trucks typically are leaving between 5 and 6.
Could you please sign in?
5 and 6 in the morning, leaving the facility, and then they're back by 4 or 5 o'clock at night, or the facility closes down around the same, the transfer station in the back, so really no change in hours of operation. As Mike said, the compressor compound may run past that while they're filling the trucks while they're parked, but no change in hours.
Once all the trucks are full, everything shuts down.
And is this 5 or 7 days a week?
We operate there 5 days a week, standard. Holiday weeks will run on Saturdays, so 6 days a week. Not 7, we don't operate on Sundays.
Okay. And so you said 35 trucks. You may have commented on this and maybe I missed it. Are these trucks retrofitted? Were they diesel?
No, dedicated. Come right off the assembly line as natural gas engines by Cummins.
We already currently have the trucks running there, we're just fueling them up in East Windsor and Hartford. So they have to go and do.
So the trucks are pre-existing as natural gas?
Correct.
Okay.
And we have
They just need a
additional-
place to fuel.
Right, and we're purchasing additional
Got
trucks.
it,
So we
got
have
it,
30
got it.
trucks at this location already.
Okay.
We're putting additional trucks, so the trucks that are running through South Windsor right now are currently natural gas.
Okay, I agree with what the first two commissioners said, this is all very interesting, but I have a question, the applicant or the staff can answer this. Even though it sounds like you've nailed it in terms of safety, security, are there any dangers that we should be aware of? I mean, typically with stations like this, is there anything that we as a commission, the public in general?
We train, the first thing we do whenever we build new natural gas fueling stations,
Right.
we get the local fire department on board.
Okay.
But with that said, natural gas garbage trucks, I mean, there's garbage trucks, unfortunately today, with the batteries in our cell phones, they do catch on fire, right? With natural gas, the good thing is that all the tanks have pressure relief valves. They're EPA CARB certified. They're safer than, what I'm trying to get at is they're safer than diesel tanks. And if there was a fire on a natural gas truck, on garbage trucks, I think there's 3 or 4 tanks. The tanks will sense, wow, it's getting too hot, I have to vent this gas. So each tank, the pressure relief valve will go off and it'll look like a Bic lighter. There's no explosion, there's none of that. It'll just, a Bic lighter, once the tank is empty, the fire stops.
Got it.
So it is, there's no explosion, there's no, combustible thing with diesel tanks.
And I think as Mike said, there's no, like, a big storage tank there, there's small storage on the compound, because it's just coming from the line, so we're not storing large amounts other than what's in the trucks.
And there's a good opportunity to also say, as noted, it's lighter than air, so it's not, typical diesel storage where we're very worried about, contamination. But both the soil and groundwater, that becomes a non-issue in this case, so it's,
And the other thing is we're not burying anything. The only thing that's underground is Eversource's gas line.
Okay.
So it's much different than a diesel storage tank when you're burying a 20,000 gallon tank. There's no room for soil contamination with our stations.
Well sold. That's all I have.
Commissioner Dexter?
Just a couple of questions, just to kind of put it into numbers. To start at 7 PM, take advantage of the electricity rates. You're saying 6 to 7 hours to fill all those trucks, so roughly 7 PM to maybe 2 AM, these would be running. And I
They
understand.
typically do it once the first truck connects.
Oh,
Because
so you
they
don't
would
wait till
rather,
7?
they would
Okay.
rather the fleet get fueled up quicker
Quicker?
than, yeah.
You-
I just say those are the two options we typically do.
Okay.
But they typically, once that first truck connects, they want them to start fueling.
The other thing I'm just curious about, more for my own information, is I heard you say Eversource is running line, from the street.
It's already there in the street. They're
Okay.
just bringing it, what they have to do, there's also a line coming up the driveway. It's this big when it just has to be this big
And that
to
was
get
my
the flow.
follow-up question. The street, coming up the street before it gets to the property, do they have to increase the pipe size? there?
They just gotta make the pipe bigger.
Not the street, though, the one in the street.
Not the one in the street, the
The one coming up our driveway. So we say we have a 2-inch line coming
The
up our
lateral.
driveway,
Right.
we need a 4-inch or
Okay.
a 6. And there's
The
already,
lateral.
there's already an 8 in the street.
So there's enough in the street,
Correct.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
where it doesn't impact any other businesses,
Nope.
everybody's happy with the flow.
The only work that you would see in the street would be a connection no different than a residential connection as far as a saw cut and excavation in the street. And then the electricity coming onto this site would be overhead, so you'd see a new pole set on our property with an overhead line. Once it's on our property, everything there would also be underground, running parallel to the gas line.
Correct. This is their line, they're just reinforcing the line to here, up the driveway.
So what the first thing they'll look at, Eversource or any of the gas companies, is there enough gas to provide to who's there now?
Right.
We're gonna take more gas and
Right.
make sure that we're not gonna affect anybody else, so no.
Thank
they
you for
wouldn't
understanding my
provide-
question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just put a generator in, and besides the meter, they had to do a little bit of a look.
they
and-
We're not gonna
Provide it.
suck everyone
Okay,
dry, I
yeah, no one
promise.
else is gonna go out of business. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Materi?
First of all, thank you for making me a hell of a lot smarter about this than I was 20 minutes ago. Two quick questions. So the current fleet of trucks you have is going to remain the same fleet of trucks? It's just now, instead of refueling them somewhere else at East Windsor, you're going to refuel them here. What happens if that exit driveway is not approved? Does that cause you a problem?
The existing driveway right now serves the fleet of trucks at this facility. So we could continue maintaining the full-service access we have out there today and provide full service to our fleet. The proposed driveway is just redundancy, allowing better traffic patterns on site. And then again, the driveway that we're talking about in future applications would be yet an additional access onto property, again, to provide additional means of trucks getting in and out. But again, we can go into that in more detail. I just brought that up as far as kind of full disclosure.
No, I was just curious if that does, if for some reason they find some rare creature lives there or something, does that put a monkey wrench in this?
No.
Okay.
Nope. Ideally, for efficiency, we would have liked to have done all this at once, but timing-wise, like I said, our hope is to start construction of this facility
Sure.
within a month, and that new driveway wasn't critical enough to delay the construction of this facility.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Were you gonna start the construction, then find out this wasn't approved for?
No.
Good, thank you very
Trying to
much.
beat the winner.
Gee, I can't imagine why.
Commissioner Cavagnaro?
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, so I have a few questions. I think you addressed, every few weeks we read about natural gas shortages, but, you seem to be able to steer clear of that, or?
I mean, we're, like I said, every station we build, we have to, and we've come across some locations where it was over capacity. And they're like, no, we don't have any capacity for you, but Eversource has been very good We haven't had many issues with any of the locations. Yeah, we have plenty of gas in this area, not only to serve this, but everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just note that, like at our sewer plant, we face the same issue with demand charges. A very large part of our bill is demand charges, so anything we can do to keep that 1 hour where you're using more electricity, it actually helps everybody because that demand charge reflects turning on some kind of a power plant that you'd normally like to keep shut down, so that's a good thing.
And the good thing about this type of station is, once it starts, it runs. It's not start-stop. It's this time fill station, and that's what these compressors are meant to do. They're meant to just run for long periods of time, and that's why they're much more efficient running in this type of situation.
So you started up slow, and you use that temporary storage to kind of get
Do a
things
soft
started.
start.
Yeah, okay. What's the service area? I mean, you're not coming around to my neighborhood in South Windsor.
Yeah, where do you serve?
We're All American Waste. that
Oh,
we
okay.
run out of there.
Oh, okay.
So we're All American Waste, USA Waste, so we run, some of our cut trucks are All American Waste, depending where we are. We do Manchester, we do other towns. This location primarily does residential service. So
Okay.
we're running trucks all over this area, within a 20-25 mile radius.
Okay, so what are you recycling there? Is this residential recycling?
So the back building does municipal solid waste and recycling materials and bulky waste. So we take that in and transfer it out.
So,
Separate from this separate from the trucks picking it up. It's those trucks are dumping their material here, but it's a separate operation.
the blue bin stuff, is that what we're
Some
talking?
blue bin stuff, yes, yep.
So it just gets stored there, it doesn't actually get processed?
No, we store it, we bring it in, put it in a truck and send it out. It's just a transfer station.
So when we do solar plants, we like to see the electricity underground. Is the service on this street? I forget, I ride my bike down there almost every week, but
The service on this street is overhead poles along the road, along Nutmeg. So what we're proposing to do is, right now, the pole locations are along our frontage. There would be a new pole, one more time, too sensitive. One new pole set at the current driveway, and then from there, everything goes underground. So there'd be underground service running up the access drive and over to the new compound.
Everything that comes in now is underground.
Yep.
Okay.
We have 2 transformers.
So where is your recycling stuff actually processed?
So we have a facility in Berlin. It's actually one of the biggest MRFs, material recovery facilities in North America. We do about 1,000 tons a day.
So there used to be, I think there was an actual processing facility in South Windsor.
There's a glass processing facility,
On Rye
Strategic
Street,
Glass.
you're thinking?
Yeah,
Not
but
really recycling up on Rye Street with
they had all
Yeah,
kinds
they
of
do glass.
technology
They're
for
still there,
sorting and
Strategic
everything.
Glass. We send our glass that we process to them and they make it into they use it for fiberglass or new glass.
Okay, hopefully not making bike trails like they did in
No, that's not a good idea.
Massachusetts.
Kansas did that, up to 2 times.
Okay, I have no other question. Any other questions or comments?
I did wanna say that the engineering department did review it and they didn't have any, there's some changes that were made, but everything was finalized.
Now, this is not a public hearing, but if there's any members of the public who we could call on, okay. All right, now, the question, they've offered to give us a visit to the East Windsor site. Personally, I could do without it, but is there anyone who'd like to, schedule a visit before we act on this?
I'm sorry, I just had one question, if
Sure.
I can ask. You talked about the emergency shut-off and the methane shut-off. How often are those operations checked, like for compliance, to make sure that those are
Good
working?
question. So with All American USA, this is our 5th station with them. We have, so just as a company, Clean Energy, we have over 150 company employed, on-call 24/7, 365 service technicians. So they're looking after this station weekly. Yeah.
Perfect.
So they just do a rotation of all their stations. And they're at a station every week.
That's all I got.
So,
No visit?
no visit, I think, is what we're
If
coming.
anybody would like to visit outside of this, just give us a, let us know. I'd be glad to have you.
Don't take it personal or anything.
When we get this one done, you can come visit sometime.
Well, it's a big machine in a big box and
It's not even
a
that
bunch of pipes.
It's not much to look at.
Okay,
The photo says 1,000 words at this point, it's, you know, it's the reason we included it, but that's what you're gonna see.
I'll give Stephanie my script,
Oh,
because she can
okay.
usually read it.
okay.
'Cause
All
you
right, so our
can't read, I
motion
was
will
gonna
be in
say.
order.
You wanna do,
Can't read it.
right, you gotta do the,
Gotta do that.
yes.
Motion to approve application 2531P USA Hauling and Recycling CNG Fueling Station request for site plan approval to construct a natural gas fueling station and associated site improvements on properties located at 570, 600, and 602 Nutmeg Road, industrial zone. And
The standard conditions, you can just say.
standard conditions 1 through 11. 12, new deed combining the properties of
We
six.
gotta do number 3, though.
Number 3 I have to do. This application is subject to the conditions of approval of the Inland Wetlands Agency Conservation Commission, including bonds in the amount of $5,000 to ensure compliance with the erosion and sediment control measures and $10,000 to ensure establishment of stormwater system. Condition 12, a new deed combining the properties of 600 and 602 Nutmeg Road must be filed in the office of the town clerk. 13, zoning data table and site plan setbacks should reflect 600 and 602 Nutmeg Road as combined properties. 14, exterior lighting plan including photometrics, I think that says metrics, is required and shall conform to section 6.3.2 and 6.3.3.
And apparently the engineering comments have all been resolved. Yeah. Is there a second? You got a second from Commissioner Dexter. Any other discussion? Take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, passes
Thank
unanimously.
you.
Very interesting project, huh?
Yeah, it is.
All right, take care of it.
Share it with the bus company next door.
Okay, so,
That'd be a good project.
Yes, thank you.
You have a good night.
Nice job.
Make it bigger, show the
Suggestion
bus company
from,
next door,
Yeah,
get all the buses on it.
I know, right?
Big
You trying to drum up a business?
with a suggestion from Commissioner Dexter to move item 4 up in front of item 3. Mr. Pullen, is that okay with you?
Nope.
He's right there.
All right, well, never mind.
No, no.
Right.
Do that anyway.
It's just all the commissions.
You know,
We can still do
He
it.
won't
Hey,
mind.
You can still do it.
Don,
It makes it a lot worse.
I think we've got a bunch of people here from the Wapping Fair. If you don't mind, we'd like to let them.
Fair enough.
Just have a seat. We'll probably get to you.
Very soon, very soon.
So, there's a discussion with Wapping Fair regarding the $20,000 site bond requirement. And there's some attached correspondence.
Copies? Some copies. Okay, sure. Thank you.
So I'm passing this around. Is that good? Oh, no, everybody.
One paper stuck in 2 places.
Okay, so,
I can share. All right, thank you.
No, it's just one paper clip was hung up.
Hi, my name's Sonia. Represent the Walking Fair.
last name?
Storco. Not really good at public speaking, so,
But that shows you anyway.
Huh? Well, I am the president, so I kind of gotta represent, and I should probably get used to this, right? So why not here? So in your packets, you have the minutes of the meeting that we came to you and we got approved. And you have our contract. you have the subdivision policy, and you have last year's surety bond and this year's. I'm here to discuss, the zoning wants $20,000 cash bond, and we believe that in our contract it says a surety bond. So we just kind of want clarity, and we want from here forward to know what we have to do. But, you know, we do believe that our contract says it's a bond. It's a regular bond. We keep being asked for, actually, Michelle brought it down to $10,000 under $10,000.
Maybe I can
Cash bond,
fill the commission.
$10,000 surety bond. But we still believe that the contract should stick with the bond. No other organization, such as the Strawberry Fest, Apple Fest, the Pet Palooza, has a cash bond. It's us, and we understand that we have bigger equipment that comes in, but we also have community support that will take care of anything, any kind of damage that happens. We have plenty of businesses in town that would help us make sure that that fairgrounds is as good as when we drove in. We want to be able to use the fairground every year, and we want to have a great working relationship with the town of South Windsor. So we wouldn't want to ruin any of that. But right now, going into the fair season, $20,000 or $10,000 is a lot when we're paying all the other contractors. We're paying electricians and this and that. And once again, our understanding was that you guys were requiring a regular surety bond. And if there is any instance that we do any kind of damage or repair, of course, we would pay for it, because we do want to continue to have a great working relationship. We want this fair, we took it over for a reason. We want this fair to continue, and we want a good working relationship. We don't want the town saying, oh, you know, we don't wanna work with them because they're slobs, or, you know. We went through last year, we were picking up the tiniest pieces of garbage to make sure it was pristine before the Apple Fest, because the Apple Fest was like 2 weeks after us. We've gotta make sure it's good for the next people. And, Ryan, did I forget anything?
So what's the impact of the two different kind of bonds on your operation?
On our operation,
Or in your finances, at least?
on our finances, we have a surety bond. We pay $1,000 for that. If the town wants a cash bond, we gotta give you $20,000 in cash before the fair starts. That's a huge impact. Or 10,000, I'm sorry, Michelle, I keep saying 20. We did bring it down to 10. But that's a huge impact, because we have to pay electricians, we have to pay, I'm getting a lot of people, entertainers, we have to have the down payments for them. Our money doesn't come in until the fair starts. Our money's going out like there's no tomorrow right now, and just with our regular insurance. Everything that we have to pay, we can't do it before the fair starts. It is a difference between 1,000 and 10,000, which is a lot to us. You know, so.
All right, so, I think we understand where you're coming from. Do you have anyone else who wants to speak, or we go back and listen to them? Sure. And, identify yourself and sign in, please.
Good evening, thank you for hearing us out. I just wanted to add in, I mean, it clearly states surety policy, which is what we had originally agreed to. And we did go ahead and secure that policy.
You didn't introduce yourself.
I'm sorry, my name is Brian Warren, Vice President on the Wapping Fair Board. we did take this over last year. We are a new entity, started with nothing and are basically working off of donations and volunteers. Last year we did, basically we ended up with about 20,000 left over, after the fair was over, and that was pretty much all our startup stuff. So we had to bring in more donations in order to make this fair happen this year. We've been doing that very successfully. We have a great core group of volunteers. And the reality of it is we're working on a field. It's just a field. It's a grass field with multiple different types of grass on there. About the only thing that could go wrong would be ruts and needing reseeding. Even if it was done in that emergency status of being before the next event that happens there a week later, the grass wouldn't even take seed anyways. So there is no urgency to suddenly fix anything other than the ruts. Policies, everybody has insurance, everybody has it for their car, for everything else that could go possibly wrong in their life. And that's what it's there for.
Okay, let's listen to our Director of Planning,
So
Michelle.
yeah, just to give you a little bit of context, so the Wapping Fair J.C.'s started out there with a 5-year permit, I think it was 2021. And at that time, with the approval, it's a 4-day event which requires a planning and zoning approval, anything other than 72 hours in length requires your approval. It was recommended at that time by the Recreation Department for a $20,000 bond. Now, your bonding policy has for several decades been sent out with every approval, and it does not allow for surety bonds. It hasn't allowed for surety bonds since the early 90s. So the approval letter these folks received and the Wapping Fair previous to them received tells you we accept a letter of credit and we accept cash bonds. That is your policy. That's not my policy. These folks last year took over the fair. They got approval. They got the same letter that Wapping Fair got with the same policy that's been in place all along. They posted a surety bond. They posted a surety bond very late in the game. I had no ability to have them come back to the commission. We were very fortunate we didn't have bad weather last year and things went pretty well. And I told them at last year's time that really before next year's fair, you guys need to resolve this because I am not following the commission's policy. These folks have contacted both Steve, Chairman Wagner, they contacted the mayor, and they ultimately contacted the town attorney who wrote them and said that I am in fact incorrect, that I cannot change your policy. And that is why they are here tonight to talk to you about this. So, and again, you know, I feel like I've been put in a pretty awkward situation because again, I'm not looking for the money. I look for the money for the town as a requirement of the approval. That's the reason that it's been here. So to that end, I understand their situation. I understand the concern of posting that kind of money. Molly Keys and I, the Director of Recreation, talked about it and we said, how about if we do a $10,000 cash bond and 10,000 surety to help you along? That's what you're referring to. So that's something that we had talked about. But even, you know, again, it's the commission's decision. But I do just want to read into the record something that Molly Keys did give me. I asked her for just a brief history so that we'd have some context. If you want to change your, change the bond amount, certainly we can do that. It says on August 18th, to my concern, Wapping Fair has been utilizing the John Mitchell Fairgrounds for more than 5 years. Since assuming my position in 2021, I've worked closely with Park Superintendent, Wapping Fair coordinators to ensure the property remains safe and suitable both for the fair and for other user group afterwards. Historically, the Wapping Fair has issued a $20,000 bond. Following each fair, we would meet to review and assess damage to determine appropriate charges. In addition, the organizers have consistently paid rental fees, including $5,000 for field use, $2,000 for showmobile. For reference, the J.C.'s paid $8,000 in 2021, $8,000 in 2022, and $9,000 in 2023. Damages are typically weather dependent as cars, large rides, and vendor equipment can cause significant ruts and damage to the grounds and entryways during wet or muddy conditions. We've always worked with the organizer to provide an itemized list of damages and associated costs. Once payment was received, we'd return the bond to them. Thank you, Molly Keys. So that is how it's worked previously.
So, I guess maybe we'll go around and maybe get comments from, we'll start with Commissioner Cavanero. Do you have any questions or concerns, comments?
I'm still processing everything. I just wanna hear what others have to say.
Yeah.
Commissioner Materi?
Putting my lawyer hat on for a minute, the paperwork that they were given in June of 2024, signed by you, specifically says that it's a surety policy. And this lasted through 24, 25, 26, 27, 28.
That's because that's a document we give them.
But it's the document, this is sent to David Pryor.
Yeah, and this is the attachment of the surety policy that he's given, right? And it calls out what we allow it. That's the attachment that people don't think of that. That is how we take bonds for your commission. And just for reference, that is what was sent to the town attorney, and I'd be glad to read his email if you want me to read that in the record, I could do that for you. Good afternoon, this was Aaron, I'm not sure who Aaron is that got the email, but anyhow, good afternoon, Aaron. Attached are the minutes of PZC Commission's approval conditions for the Friends of Wapping Fair. A bond of $20,000 to be required, as you note, to restore fairgrounds to the prior condition is after the conclusion of the fair. The form of the bond is to be in accordance with the town's surety policy attached. Acceptable forms of surety are cash bond or letter of credit. This policy was provided to your client last year and a cash bond was provided. At the moment, the town planner is correcting and requiring a bond that is in accordance with the town's policy. It must be either cash or letter of credit. Neither I nor she can deviate from that policy, as I'm sure you are aware. However, I understand the Friends of Wapping Fair is scheduled to come before the PZC to address this issue later this month. If the commission is amenable to revising the conditions of approval to accept a surety bond in lieu of a cash bond, it has the power to do so. Let's wait and see what happens later this month. Regards, Rich Corella.
Okay, I'll defer to the rest of the crew, but I would think that this could get all muddied and just for the way the wording was done between the two pieces and the fact that last year was accepted to be just the $1,000 deposit on the bond, consistent with, and that was accepted by us as consistent with supposedly the contract that covers 5 years. So I think that this could get muddy if we don't do this the right way, so.
Sure. That's why it's here in front of you.
Typical nonsense,
That's why it's in front of you.
Commissioner Dexter?
So, I know what cash is, but a letter of credit, so is that something that's impossible for you guys to get from, I don't know, a financial institute of some sort?
We could get it from the bank, I could get it from, like Mitchell Fuel, or, it depends on what you want.
So it's just somebody that's gonna vouch for,
Would you accept it from Mitchell Fuel?
No, a letter of credit is done by a bank, so it'd be issued by a banking institution typically.
a finance,
Instead of an
You're gonna find
insurance
it's not a savings.
Yeah,
okay,
Typically, letters of credits and cash bonds.
so
okay, there's some,
Yeah.
they're very similar.
instead of an insurance company, you want a letter from a bank.
Okay, do we do this type of arrangement with any other group in town that's using?
So again, no other group goes for 72 hours and comes in front of your commission
and
for
that's-
bonding.
that's-
It's because it's a 4-day event that
Okay.
you have that
That we
particular
have
bond in
this.
place, yeah. So there is no other group to your question. And honestly, I don't know Parks and Rec's policy on charging of different groups for, day events. I just don't know what the answer is to that.
Right. And last year, this all happened for $1,000 and.
Well, last year, I believe, well, first of all, it was your first year out and your attendance wasn't as great as, we hope it will be in future years, for sure. But we had a nice year, so there was very little damage that needed to be rectified from what I was told by Parks.
Okay.
It's worst case scenario is what you're planning for. Again, we'll work with you with whatever decision you make, but I really wanted to be on the record what your decision was.
Yeah,
So I'm not
Michelle.
collecting what you were
Yeah.
asking me to.
Well, keep going.
I'm gonna come at this from a slightly different perspective. I am big fans of these folks. They have busted their ass last year and I'm sure this year to pull this off. Those of us who have been involved with the Apple Fest and the Strawberry Fest, which are one-day events, know how hard it is to do this, how much time and energy it takes. These folks to do a 4-day festival like this, taking it over from the J.C.'s like they did, they started last year based on a wing and a prayer, and they pulled it off. And I think they did a great job. And to me, they demonstrated their integrity with how they did it and how they left the field. I think we should bend every way possible to work with them, with all the work that they have to do and have done and have to do to pull it off this year. This issue is the last thing they need to be futzing with. That's my perspective.
Commissioner Pagansky?
Yeah, I guess my thoughts are kind of tied to your things. I think that I saw the surety bond there too, and I get that there's another communication that was attached, but I think it creates some ambiguity on there. And so I guess was there any reference to exactly what kind of bond that they needed during the motion?
The policy was sent as part of their letter, so.
Like when we approved this though, right? I know that it was attached to.
Well, when we talk to people about bonding, whether they hear what we're saying or not, I really.
Cause I have in the packet, I have the minutes of your meeting and what you guys approved. And what you approved was the surety bond, and then our contract also
And it's
says
a matter of how
surety bond.
the wording is, so as you can appreciate.
Yeah, and so I guess I know that we're gonna be talking about the upcoming one, which kind of then makes me start to think a little bit about some questions I'll probably ask for, like what requirements come for the vendors. But for this one, for right now, I guess my, I can see where they saw surety. I did actually do a little research, and it looks like most towns, right, the majority of towns that host fairs, I didn't look about how many days were involved, but it does look like it's a surety bond. So I could see from a not-profit type, asking them to kind of put up a cash amount right now could be difficult, especially this late in the game too.
To be fair, it's not late in the game, she has told us.
Oh, no, I'm saying like right now,
Thank
for you
you.
come here, yeah. No, I guess, yeah, right, no, I'm saying like at this point right now.
She has been communicative, she's doing her job, it's not late in the game, it's us trying to figure out the best route, honestly.
What do we have at risk from, I guess, if we take a surety bond versus the cash bond?
In the event the town needed to cash in on the surety bond, you get into legal costs and things like that. Whereas a letter of credit, you walk to the bank and you get your money, cash bond, you cash your bond, right? So it's a matter of ease of access.
Right.
It's an ease of access. And to be honest with you, it goes back to the 90s when we couldn't collect on a surety bond for a subdivision approval, that this commission changed the policy. I mean, that's how long ago it got changed. So we used to allow bank accounts with 2 signatures, and then 9/11 happened, and we didn't allow that anymore. So it's gotten narrow over the years to being a letter of credit or a cash bond. We do earn your interest if you do a cash bond, just whatever interest there might be, we put it into an account and return it afterwards.
I just like to add though, we're not trying to destroy the field, we wanna make sure that things are, if we were trying to just skate around things, we could drop this down to a 3-day fair, have the same amount of people come through here and not have to do any kind of bond. We want to make sure that the field is restored, we want to work with nonprofits that are trying to help commit to this community and to the field itself. And we really want for a long-term working
Let's go
relationship,
back
we just
and
don't have.
let Commissioner Kupchinas,
I'm sorry.
comment. Yeah.
No, so what do we have to do to change this over to just a surety on it? This is a town fair that everybody
You
in
guys
town
could
goes.
make a motion and
So let's
say
make a
this is
motion
what-
to change all this. It's a town fair, everybody in town goes and enjoys it. I find it even hard to believe that you could cause $20,000 worth of damage to that field, no matter how big you run it up. Drive a compactor over from across the street from ESI and roll it out, throw some topsoil down and seed it up and you're done. I mean,
So at this point, a motion is out of order because not everybody has spoken.
okay, but, I mean, I'm
But we'll allow a motion.
voicing my
Okay, that's all
opinion,
right.
it's,
No, but,
That's good.
so I mean, what we're dealing with here is good intentions, obvious intent, it's a great thing. But we have the worst case scenario, so it turns out, Hurricane Aaron or whatever comes through, and, you know, maybe you have a very wet day, attendance is very low, the town faces costs associated with going after a surety bond, is that correct? I mean, we, planning and zoning is kind of protecting the town money. So I guess, what does it cost, what's the difference to us between a cash bond and a surety bond to the town and the town's budget? Let's say the worst thing happens, you know, they don't make the money they expected to make, the field is a mess because of the weather, what happens? And I'll ask Michelle or.
If you can't get them to cooperate with.
I mean, they don't have the money to cooperate,
Well,
okay.
well, then the town would go after the money if that was what was
And then,
decided.
how long will that take?
I could not even venture to guess. Again, don't have that experience.
So, I mean, it's a claim now against an insurance policy, basically, right? And the field would possibly not be ready in 2 weeks? If we
Again,
went with the
depends
sur-
on the nature of what you're trying to.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, this is all about worst case situations. The best case, you know, the field is in pretty good shape, all their volunteers go out and take care of ruts and things. And we move on, but the worst case is what we're worried about. With the $20,000 in hand, you can do a lot of repairs. With an insurance claim that might take a year to process.
Well, I guess why are we assuming that there's gonna be an issue with submitting a claim into an insurance company for payment? I guess we could make some requirements that it's gotta be an A, which I would assume we have requirements about it being an A-rated, like certain.
Again, we don't allow them, so we don't have requirement. You could make that a requirement, but again, by not allowing them, we don't have requirements associated with them.
But let's say we did allow them to
Right.
use a surety bond, I'm trying to understand the implications of going with a surety bond, and basically, I think the town's gonna need to repair that field if it gets damaged and these have a really bad day, okay? So,
Maybe the memo, I'm hearing you folks say that you're gonna repair the field, maybe there's a memo of understanding that needs to be, you know, put in place or something like that related to the repairs with
We will
Park
have
and
the
Rec.
field repaired. If a hurricane came through,
Hmm.
we want to be able to use that field next year. We want the town to look at us with pride.
okay, who is the "we" that's gonna do this repair?
We have ESI, we have Mitchell Fuel, we have all the guys from there, we have all my guys that are on the board. We busted hump. We busted hump to put it together, we busted hump to take it down, and we would bust hump to make sure that the field is the same.
Can we get some
as
kind
we
of a commitment from these businesses to basically stand in?
I can get you letters from both businesses saying that we
Again,
guarantee
you know,
that field.
And there's other
I mean,
businesses
I
in
know
town that'll
what-
take care of it. Everyone's gonna return it back to there's enough businesses that have involvement in all of this throughout town.
Yep.
That we're not just gonna let the field look like crap after it's done.
Yeah,
I
okay.
mean, do you think, the field is named after
I mean, I'm trying to
John
find.
Mitchell, I mean, his brother drives by as he pulls out of his
Excuse
shop
me,
every day.
excuse me. I'm trying to
He's
find
gonna-
a way that we can make this go with a surety bond, but also get the field fixed up in the very worst situation.
I will
which-
get you letters of guarantee that the field will be fixed up. I'm sorry.
Cause I would say, I mean, if we've got these companies willing to do it, that's even better than. Okay, so, just a minute, Bob.
Are you volunteering?
No, just, so I think with, you know, with those kind of assurances, then a surety bond, to me, makes sense. These businesses do the work, they take the risk of not being paid. The surety bond, we put a claim in, and that's the, you know, up to the, you know, a negotiation with the company that issues that bond. So, to me, that might be a better way to work it than just to say, okay, we'll take a surety bond, because I don't like the idea of being hanging out with the town's money for, you know, who knows how long. You know, our one past experience with surety bonds was not pleasant. So, okay, Bob,
No, I was gonna say, surety bond's not a unicorn, though. I mean, it still is a bond.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not, it doesn't just roll over to cash immediately, but
Mhm.
it is, you know, it is, will be paid at some point unless it's determined to be dubious.
well,
And it's a,
there's always room for discussion on how much money you're gonna get, right? Okay. But, I don't know, do we,
So how would we have to change our rules?
So if you want a new motion could
Yes.
replace the approval condition that
Hmm.
requires it to abide by your surety policy and allow a surety bond, right? Is what
yeah, that
you're
was something, we're
suggesting.
using the word surety in two different ways
Well,
here.
Because surety in the sense of it being a money guarantee, right? So that's how we're using
So
surety
surety
in the
is the-
general sense of the term.
Surety is the
And
purpose
surety
of the.
bond is a specific instrument, right?
Yeah,
So
okay,
we're
so-
using in the general sense when we talk about our surety policy.
Yeah, that's where we
So
might.
just because you see the word surety in some of this text doesn't mean we're talking about a surety bond, okay,
Correct.
okay. All right, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No.
Yeah. So I would entertain a motion.
Still not sure what to say.
I'd like to make a motion that we alter our regulations to allow for a surety bond to cover any potential need or claim associated with
The property?
fares. See, I'm in the middle of a motion, but the question in my mind is, can we make this unique to the Wapping Fair, or is it
That's
across
what I
the
would
board?
suggest you do.
Let's make it unique to it. That's our town fair. That's always been our town
Okay.
fair. It's,
So this year, maybe even just,
Then if Josh was able to capture what I said so far, let's say unique to the Wapping Fair. And do we need to put an amount,
well,
or will that change annually?
So you gave them a 5-year approval, and we're in year 2 of the 5-year approval, so the 20,000 would stay the same. So we're looking to do something like change approval condition number 2 of the approval letter that was granted to allow for a surety bond as part of the posted bond, and also we were gonna request a memo of understanding of repairs for the
Yes.
from,
facility from the Wapping Fair membership.
What she said.
Yes, what she said.
She said
so, okay, so from the memo of understanding coming from businesses.
These,
The board of law.
you'll have the commitment from the business.
Okay, but the board of directors is people, businesses are
You're gonna
businesses.
reference the businesses that you're.
I'll reference the businesses and I will get, owners. We are going to guarantee it, but I will reference the businesses and I will get owners' signatures on said letter.
Okay, so we got that captured,
Right up here.
Yeah.
okay, all right, any other changes that people want?
Put it to a vote.
Okay, did we get a second?
We did.
I did.
Okay, so,
All in favor?
any others, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion passes.
Thank you so
guys,
much,
happy
thank you.
That took, sorry, Don, that took longer than we would have hoped.
So much for a quick one, right?
Okay, Wapping Fair, get that over here.
Thank you.
Good luck, pray for good weather.
We'll see you at the fair.
Yep, sure will.
Okay. So, introduce yourself again, even though you don't need to be introduced.
John Poland, the firm of Gilman York Property Advisors located in East Hartford, Connecticut. Here on behalf of Down the East LLC this evening. Unfortunately, John Swaggerty was not able to attend, but he sends his thanks to you guys for taking the time to meet with us. I was gonna joke that I've been away from this commission for too long, so I'd find a reason to come back tonight. Yes, further.
Yeah, probably.
But
We've missed you.
So, you received some information from us, requesting this meeting, and essentially the letter that I submitted is kind of self-explanatory. As we went through that very productive process of the steering committee to come up with the amendment for the BGS overlay zone, we, through that process, really kind of focused on and conceptualized the carriage house style development. And that was being driven primarily by the interest that was being shown on the site. Since probably around the time when we were going through the text amendment process, we started sensing some cooling off from the developers we had been speaking with, which led to conversations around, is a garden style approach possible? So with the documents I sent you, you have the concept that we generally discussed around the carriage houses, and you also have a secondary concept on a carriage style. So the key differences here, one is the style of development, number two would be the ownership structure, the carriage house being a common interest community, a garden style being a rental property. As you see, conceptualized, situated in the center of the site, trying to minimize impacts, once again, on Smith Street, or at least being sensitive to those and so forth and so on. So what we are asking, so we didn't want to just show up with an application saying we just want another text amendment. We reached out to staff, through staff, they reached out to Steve, and then we were asked to come before you guys in kind of a sense of transparency. So attached behind my letter is just a draft of some preliminary text amendments that could be done. The current reg, as it was adopted a few months ago, never really explicitly says it must be this style of development. But statements around the common interest community and so forth and so on ultimately tie it to kind of that one style of development. And then some restrictions on the number of units per building size. So I essentially just at this point went through and I believe addressed the provisions within the regs that were limiting upon, you know, it could only be carriage houses. So at this point, just bigger picture, so you know, we are in the process of preparing a zone change application. We are in the process of preparing a master plan. And we do anticipate we'll be back before you this fall for that next step of approvals for the site. We would like to, hopefully, based on your direction, also submit an application for a text amendment to make some tweaks here, to give the ability to do either the carriage house or the garden style development. So with that said, I'll shut up and take any questions from you guys that you may have. Oh, just one last comment. I guess I'm not shutting up yet. Pre-application, informal meeting, nothing I say, nothing you say is binding. You know, we're just trying to get some direction from you. You know, let us know if you think we're crazy coming back to this, or if it's something you'd be willing to entertain. Thanks.
So could you explain this new drawing a little bit? What if this were to happen, and it's not written, neither of these is actually written in the regulation.
Right.
So it's sort of implied, okay, as
Right.
you were saying. So what does this new idea here look like?
It is the identical to the carriage house in the sense that it's 210 units, and it has the parking that's required to accommodate the 210 units. It's designed at 3 stories, not at 4. We are being sensitive to height and the area. Probably would have been easier to go to 4 and lessen the footprints, but it can be done at 3 stories. So it's a very preliminary rough, you know, just kind of rough sketching showing that a garden style development could be done on the site. I think in the context of parking, it's not conceptualizing as of yet what would be garaged or structured parking, you know, and so forth. It's just showing kind of the footprint of the development could accommodate the buildings and the parking that's required. So it's a very preliminary, just kind of rough draft of 210 units in the garden style.
Now, okay, I guess I'll ask our Director of Planning if you have any comments or thoughts on this.
No, just kind of interesting what a text regulation will get you, right? We write a regulation under one visual and it kind of gets you another visual too. But having said that, this would be the maximum that regulation would get you. The green space you see there would stay as green space under the current regulation. It does show that 10 acres dotted line, that would be the commercial portion of it that the regulation requires, so.
So there are a few wording changes. Why don't you go through those really, really quick here for us?
Sure. So page 2, which would be section 511.2 permitted uses, subsection A, subsection 1, adding the words apartment rental, to not limit it to common interest communities. On page 3, top of page 3, the first item there, number 1, tweaking some language that restricted housing eliminating shall consisting of single-family detached, single-family attached. Building shall not contain more than 6 units per building. Garden-style building shall contain no more than 105 units per building. And that was just a very quick and easy way of doing it with 110 units and knowing there's 2 buildings here. I'm open to more elegant, approach to that, but that was to convey the message and get the point across. I believe the next one, here, page 5, middle of the page, item G under parking. It was written with homeowners association and we added in and property management rules, just recognizing that if it's a rental, there wouldn't be a homeowners association, so it would fall under the rules of the property management to that provision. And trying to remember here, I think that is it. Those were the key sections of the reg that kind of imply it could only be a carriage house style development, and that would get us over the hump. That being said, actually, I will just say, I didn't want to tackle it. I didn't want to, complicate it at this point. But at the top of page 3, where there's the bulk and area requirements for minimum frontage, setbacks, and so forth, if you wanted us to kind of present one for garden, one for carriage house, I would be open to that. I thought maybe the concept that we're showing shows that the property would be pushed far away from Smith Street and so forth. We could reinforce that with some setbacks and separation distances in those bulk and area requirements if you wanted to. I just didn't want to go down that road as of yet.
Okay, I guess we'll go around and see how commissioners are reacting. Mr. Hutchins.
Well, I guess first I'll congratulate the South Windsor Police for catching the guy dumping all the tires out behind here on the property, so. They got him.
I was unaware of that.
Yeah, I was in the police bar the other day. There was a ton of tires out back there, they finally caught him, so.
Cool.
Good job on that.
Okay.
I don't like the use of this land, I know it's property, we're trying to do it, I think we're ended up like dividing all this, we have Evergreen Walk, which is beautiful, and somehow, I know we have Smith Street between there, if there was a way to somehow connect this to Evergreen and tie it into this other plaza and go through all of it, that would be like the ultimate design for our town and everything else, instead of just kinda throwing something here, throwing something there, like, we need to come up with some kind of a plan, obviously there's properties involved there and there's not much you can do about it, because they're all other owners on it, but it would just be this awesome little path to go through Evergreen and come off the highway right there. You guys own that the plaza there too, right? No, that's another, not anymore on it. But, it would just be, I don't know. I wanna see, I know we can't have it, but I'd rather see younger people in town, and I know we have this hump we gotta get through in our school system, but are we just screwing ourselves over for the rest of time with this? That's all I
Commissioner
got.
Baganski?
So I am in favor of the idea of like, I know younger, right, but the kind of age restriction, just because of obviously the school impact. I kinda like a little bit of the buffer for the residents of Smith Street as well. I do like a little bit more of the green space there, so I mean, other than that, I don't really have any questions right now. I think I'm still trying to absorb the whole thing, but from my initial thoughts, I kinda like the buffer a little bit there, a little bit more.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bernstein?
So Don, to make sure I understand what I'm looking at, what you're telling us is that what we see that says garden apartments replaces what we see that says carriage houses, and the reason that the footprint is so much smaller, it's 1 story versus 3?
Yeah, so the carriage.
That's what I'm looking at,
The
right?
carriage houses are semi-detached, you know, they're
Okay.
1 and 2 story buildings, depending on their size and layout. And the garden style would be essentially, you know, like a tempo, you know, it would be a 3-story building, I don't know if tempo's 4 though, but.
They're
just-
3.
They're 3, okay, so it would be a 3-story building, buildings more like tempo, so.
All right, so what's driving this, as you indicated and as in your letter, there's some softness in the market on the part of developers. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, so throughout the process we went through over the past year, the client, John, has been in touch with 2 developers, 1 local, 1 national. And around the time of the tariffs, the national client started getting a bit quiet. And the national developer, and the local developer has always been concerned about the ability to meet the affordability requirements down the carriage house route. Neither one have vanished or gone away, just they're not as excited. I believe, as I said in the letter, for my client, the carriage house is still kind of the preferable route. But we don't wanna shut down the opportunity of going the garden style route if possible, and that's what the regulation, it's my fault, actually did. I kinda had blinders on there when drafting and working with you guys. So we're not saying either or, John is not in discussions with anyone about a garden style at this point, but we essentially just wanted the opportunity that it could be one or the other, at least in the context of the text of the regulation. At the end of the day, whatever comes forward is gonna have to go through that master plan, development plan, zone change process with you guys, so you'll have a final say in it.
So are you indicating that you're open to a hybrid?
I would say it's possible, I don't know if it's ideal. And I'm just gonna say that in this sense, I think what people, and kind of maybe a conversation I kinda had with you, I think what's liked about the garden style is the vast green space that remains green and buffered. So I think there's a liking to that. So doing the hybrid, you know, while it would maybe provide best in both worlds, it then ultimately reduces that low density feel of the site. So I'm not sure aesthetically how favorable you guys would be to it, but is it plausible? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not asking because I necessarily think it's a good idea, I don't know, I'm just getting information right now.
My client has never raised the hybrid with me, except for all the way back when we first came here 2 years ago with 680 units or whatever. That was a hybrid, it was garden and it was carriage style. That's never been discussed since then, so.
That's all I have.
Commissioner Dexter?
You know, as Commissioner Buganski said, it's nice to see a lot of green. I don't personally have a favor with rentals, as long as the 55 and older community don't, and they're willing to use elevators to get up to the 3rd floor. I mean, there's lots of older folks better shape than I am. So, having said that, and steering away from a hybrid, I guess this commissioner will say out loud that when you all come back, I like the 210 units. So I don't wanna see another block of 105 somewhere else to fill up that green space. And, you know, as long as we keep it at 55 with nobody under 18, I'm happy. All right?
Commissioner Materi?
You know, I sympathize, I agree with most of the comments that are being made. I think the green space idea is good. Personally, I like the idea of the carriage houses instead. I mean, for seniors who live in town, moving into an apartment as opposed to moving into your own carriage house, to me, it'd be much more preferable to move into the carriage house. And the way this was originally presented to us, this original master plan with, you know, the recreation facilities, eventually having even the ability to place a store or a restaurant onto the complex, to me seemed like a really good idea to encourage seniors in town to stay in town. But, you know, if it comes down to it just can't be done dollar-wise, then, you know, I guess the other plan is worth listening to. But my preference would still be for the carriage house.
Understood, thank you.
I would probably swing the other way. I do like seeing the.
It's because you're a kid.
Look, I hold the general belief in urban planning and just homes in general, that I do like them, when I say being built up, I don't mean 20 stories, but I mean within our zoning regulations, 3 stories up, it saves up a lot of open space, it saves a lot of land, and that could be, I don't wanna say opportunity for 20 years from now, but let's say there's some need that this town has 20 years from now, and that either piece is renegotiated or just wanna keep it a open space, or maybe they wanna convert that area to like a private park for the people that live there. What was that?
Like a bomb shelter?
You never know, never know.
Never know.
So I am in favor of this, and I completely understand the market shifts, and I completely understand that. That being said, you know, I like what Commissioner Capuccioni said. I think the one point he mentioned about, you know, keeping, was it young people in town? Yeah, I think that's very important. I mean, the meeting that this application was voted on, I was not there, and I would have raised a point that, you know, some hybrid of, you know, studios, 1 bedrooms of non-age restricted, and then age restricted and have more than 1 bedroom. Like, I would have preferred that style, but again, like, we're past that. I like this current development. I like how it's designed. I don't mind the height. I think others might mind the height, but that's sort of where I come from. I think it saves a lot of land from being developed, and there's a lot of, I don't wanna say opportunity, but I do like seeing a lot of green on there as well.
Thank you.
Okay, so, like the others, I find this concept appealing. I would like you to go through on page 3, the different set of setbacks and so on, like you suggested. 2 things. What do we know now about how the schools are doing? I mean, we've been scared to death of adding students to the schools, but then I understand that the elementary schools are kinda.
I think you know, we do best waiting until like October 1st when they're gonna get their September kids come in there and they'll get us some new data.
Yeah,
You know, we should know some, you know, they'll have new data for us this fall.
I mean, I kinda like the idea of a place where somebody who just graduated from college can live also, you know, that's a big need in this town. And we're just afraid of messing with the schools, but,
Yeah, I'll get you data as soon as I have any wind of it.
okay.
For sure.
The height, this is a substantial distance from people who might care, and I don't know what I forget what the topography is like. I guess I would say the height could go higher if we know that you really can't see that 4th story from Smith Street residence or whatever now.
Right.
And the advantage of another story would be to allow garages and so on. So.
Okay.
Excuse me, if you could,
We could ask the designer to take a look at that and some sightlines and so forth, So,
I mean, we might consider some language that allows us to, excuse me, waive the height requirement, for if the sight lines are favorable or something like that.
sure.
We definitely don't like seeing all the parking outside and that,
Understood.
so. But I think what you're hearing is favorable response to the kind of changes you're proposing in the regs. We can go back and look and see how concerned we are about schools. You know, Commissioner Caverniero's comments and Commissioner Kupchinos, I think are valid. It'd be nice to allow other people to move in here. And I think what you said before was that the original carriage house design is really selling not to the not to the seniors like me, but to people who are just turning 55 and empty nester kind of is what sells. I don't know what sells in this kind of a setup.
Right, absolutely. Kind of 55 to 65 is kind of the target market on the carriage style stuff. I would expect the garden style, being a rental product, would probably trend a little bit higher. You're probably talking a 60 to 67 age cohort that it would be geared to, so it would probably trend a little bit lower, a little bit higher in age. I haven't looked that closely at that yet. As I said, we haven't talked with anyone about this at this point, so I just haven't dug into it much.
So these houses are really sort of luxury houses. Now, these apartments, if you were to do that, would they tend to be, again, you don't have a design here, of course.
Right.
Would they tend to be a similar level of luxury or?
Absolutely, because if you remember, there are provisions within the regs that talk about robust amenity packages. There has to be a clubhouse, there has to be that stuff. We wouldn't tweak any of that. That would remain and would still apply to the apartment style design.
So I think we're encouraging you to come in with a zoning reg change.
Yep.
I don't know which commission will, whether it be this commission or the next one, that'll end up having to decide about it.
Right.
So just going back to the process you laid out originally.
Yep.
So a text amendment would be the first thing that we would do, and then you'd follow it with an application for zone change.
Yeah,
Okay.
probably.
Well, I mean, that would be the preferred route, because we typically won't take a text amendment with a pending application for that. Right.
So I would anticipate, just knowing on my client's schedule, that we would submit for like the first meeting of October on the text amendment and the second meeting for the thing, that we'd be moving hopefully quickly with them if possible.
Yeah, I mean, the sooner you can get the text amendment drafted and in here, the better off
Yeah.
for going forward, because we're going to design something assuming a text amendment gets approved and then it doesn't.
Right.
So it takes us, what, 35 days with
Just to
CROG?
get it to CROG, right?
So can we just let the staff send it off to CROG and?
Well, I gotta have one first.
Right, but I mean, if you have one.
Oh, no, the minute it gets submitted into the office, we do it even if you haven't officially received it. I mean, we'll
Okay.
start it with, yeah.
Okay.
We'll send it off as soon as we have something.
We'll turn it around quickly. And once again, it allows me to come back before you guys some more and miss you over time. No, I thank you guys. We really appreciate your time.
Oh,
and
thanks for
your willingness to
waiting.
work with us. Thank you.
All right, it's 8:43, so we can. So we got three sets of regulation changes. Why don't you do the simple ones first?
Sure, so, after all these years of how many times we have the temporary conditional permits come back, every 2 years, the text amendment that I've drafted would suggest that, it be approved at the staff level, the renewal be approved at the staff level unless there's some, known complaint or some known issue. So the commission would still know about its renewal coming up, but we would handle the renewal at the staff level. And the same thing was suggested for major home occupations, which again come up every 5 years. Just based on history, there's only once or twice that I can think of that you haven't given a 5-year approval. And those would be ones, if you only gave a 1 or 2 year, we would certainly look for you to do the renewal. But if it's something in here for the 20-year renewal, again, at staff level, we could report back to you any renewals that take place. So the text amendment drafted to allow for that kind of
Especially if
approval.
there's no complaints.
Yeah, and we usually have a feel for if we've got something that's.
I mean, if there's lots of complaints or something, that would
Yeah,
force
we
them to.
trigger, yeah, we trigger, we go back to you guys, yep.
So, any comments on this? We're sort of nodding, okay, okay.
Makes a lot of sense.
So this can
Saves a
go
lot
off
of
to
people a lot of time.
Prague, or has it already gone off to Prague?
No, I waited for you guys to tell me it looks good.
All right. I just always feel bad bringing these people in.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea to do that, maybe we'll even adjust the fee.
Okay.
Down.
So,
Nice.
Don't tell your boss.
we've got in front of you a rather large document, which is the solar regulations, and we added a section for batteries. So I thought a little bit of context in the form of a slide presentation would make it easier to understand. So if you click to the next. So right now we have small systems and they require minimal zoning review. It's done by the staff. It's a site plan. The typical house rooftop, all businesses are doing it too. There's been a number of businesses that have put some solar out in either on their rooftops or out in their land. The biggest, well, going on, the large systems do require special exception hearings. Concerns there are pretty much visual impact, noise from inverters and transformers, and emergency access. But moving on, the definition of small right now is that the energy is used on site. So the installation behind New Way Tobacco, they use it to run their factory and get the financial benefits of having a solar farm out back. That's what, 7 acres, I think? And at large, the definition is that you're selling the energy. The problem with the small definition is that there are some quite large systems that meet the definition of small. And again, the New Way Tobacco example, as much as I love it, is an example of one that's kind of large for using the small regulation. So also you can have non-residential uses in the residential zone like schools. You can have rooftop or ground outside of school. Everybody's doing rooftop if they can. So, but it's not necessarily as small as it could be. Large systems could have minimal impact, like if they're, away from a residential zone, I don't know how much review we need. If they're a rooftop on a warehouse, canopy systems, I think there's probably an issue of whether they're ugly or not, but they're definitely coming along and becoming more economical. And then there's a definition, we require it to be a primary use. But you recall the CTEC installation up in the north end of town was not really a primary use. It was primary for part of the property, but it was basically still a farm. So that example of doing that, we'll probably get rid of the word primary in the regulation. Moving on. So we got, in this draft, we've got new regulations that recognize different types of accessory use. And we picked this up from a CROG
Yeah, with the model regulation.
model regulation, yeah.
For solar.
And we also say it's not included in some of the coverage requirements. There's always an issue of whether a solar panel is impacting the lot coverage or the impervious coverage. Right now, this draft says not including either. I think there's a comment in there that maybe we want to include the footings, but we don't use the footings on streetlights. So I don't know. We added the concept of a single device system, which basically it's one of these signs with a little solar panel on it. Just leave it in the sign regulations. So now the definition of small is it has to basically has to be such it's going to have a small impact. So I arbitrarily, actually, Hank and I arbitrarily said, well, maybe 1 acre. But what do we mean, you know, when do we start to get concerned about the size of a small unit? And then if it's on a rooftop, like a big warehouse, a 300,000 square foot warehouse, do we really care that there's a solar up there? So that would be some, you know, changing the definitions for small. And then large is basically anything that's not small. So in the draft here, there are minimal changes, and it allows you to include what's called battery energy storage. You can go on to the next one. So this diagram is very technical, but it illustrates something that's worth talking about. First of all, if you look at the power of what's called an inverter, the thing that changes the DC power that you get from the sun, which doesn't have alternating current coming out of it, and you convert it to alternating current, that device makes noise. It can have a very high pitch noise, but the noise of the thing, if you look down, you see the 500 line, and then to the left of that is maybe 200 kilowatts. This is a single inverter that's very small, and you notice the solid blue dots. That's what's called a string inverter. That's what we saw when we toured the site up in, was that East Windsor?
Yeah.
Those were string inverters, and they were scattered all around the site. The advantage of scattering them around is if something makes noise and you have 2 of them, it doesn't double the dBA. The dBA, the math is a little different, so it's a slight increase. So having these small inverters scattered around the site actually is beneficial from a noise perspective. That's moving on. But what it really says is that you can design these things so you can live with them. We just want to make sure that people are doing that, and doing that well. We also saw examples where they weren't. So, Scandic Road site was 5.6 acres, 1,000 kilowatts. An acre of that would have generated probably more like 160 kilowatts. But it's a, you know, we could have said the limit on small is 200 kilowatts, but to me, as zoning people, an acre is easier to understand than 200 kilowatts. So my thought is, we call it an acre, we're dealing with 200 kilowatts. If you don't like an acre, we could make it a half acre or 3 acres, whatever. With the distributed string inverters, the noise is easily controlled, and now most of the noise is coming from the transformer. And by the way, if you get above 1,000, right now, the siting council controls it. There's always efforts in the legislature to change that, but right now, anything above a megawatt is siting council. So before we move on to talk about, I guess there's one more picture here. Yeah. You can also, part of the design is distance, and you can see that, you know, you have an 80 decibel inverter, which is a single inverter. You have to go quite a ways away to get down to what we want at night, or during the day, which is like 50 decibels. If you have, you know, the 2 different transformers, again, there's a question of distance, so we definitely want to look at distance when we're designing these things. And this is a particular site and a particular study that they did like 3 different sites, so this is just the way that site was performed. It's very important to consider distance in these designs. So before we go on and talk about batteries, any comments or questions?
Just out of curiosity, high tension lines, like the ones we have going through town here, what do those put out for a decibel level? Because there's obviously a humming that comes from them that's pretty, I mean, you go in some people's backyards as you go up
Pretty loud.
You know, Miller Road through that area where they abut all that on the back, Urban Street through there. I mean,
I think you're probably
I
looking
mean,
in.
they put out a pretty good,
Yeah.
I mean, you go hiking up at the bird sanctuary and you walk under them, especially if it's a little damp or a little mist in the air, they scream at you.
I don't know, I actually don't know, but I'm thinking,
And the
just based on
health effects to it,
personal
too.
experience, they're probably in the 40 to 50 decibels, if you can hear
So
it.
it's really probably not much
You can hear
different
it,
than being under high tension lines.
Yeah.
Or within proximity to them.
Okay, any other questions about the zoning or the solar thing? Because then we were thinking about adding batteries in amongst all that solar stuff, but then batteries aren't always coupled to solar, so the thought occurred to just have a separate section dealing with batteries. And we move on now. What it's called is a battery energy storage system. These are the larger things, not flashlight batteries, okay? Not cell phone batteries, but it's a storage system, uses a group of batteries, and if you actually were to take these things apart, even though they're huge and, you know, they're just a bunch of little cells like you have in your flashlight. And in your car, it's the same thing. It uses a group of batteries connected to the electrical power network to store electrical energy. And they are used for a number of different reasons. The term energy arbitrage is, I'm gonna use energy from the grid when it's cheap, and I'm gonna deliver energy to the grid and get paid when it's expensive. You can also use batteries to avoid peaks. As we heard in the earlier discussion, the peak that you have throughout the year determines a large part of your electric bill if you're anything like a sewer plant or a factory. So by these guys just coming in and turning on for a few minutes when you're approaching a peak, they can save a lot of money for the company. And it's good for the utility. They don't have to turn on a power plant to deal with that peak. So the obvious thing with solar is, you know, you collect the solar energy during the day, you use it in the evening when you're watching TV and, you know, it's getting hot in the house, et cetera. So, again, moving the peak shaving and the demand charge is basically the same thing. And there's some backup power you can get with them, you know, a couple hours out of in a house. So if we move on to the next one. So they can be, whoops. They can be installed inside a structure, they can be installed outside, kind of like an air conditioner would be. And they may or may not be the primary use of a site. They make more noise than solar because they have cooling associated with them. They got air conditioning basically, which is running whenever the battery is either being charged or discharging. And they operate 24 hours. So noise is a bigger issue with batteries than it is with solar. There are mitigation options. You can enclose them, you can build walls, you can make sure you got enough distance. So noise has to be, from a zoning perspective, it's a big issue with these things. There is a need for emergency access. There've been some early history of fires. They seem to be doing a lot better more recently, whatever needed to be done. And of course, you'd have some fire marshal approval. And I think we would deal with screening as part of our regulation.
Steve?
Yeah.
Wouldn't disposal be an issue with batteries? They don't last forever, do they?
Okay, so that, I mean, there are a whole bunch of issues that are not zoning issues.
Okay.
You know, the electrical, you know, the building inspections, all the electrical codes and everything. So disposal is, if someone wants to build one of these, they've got to arrange for the disposal. Now, they're starting to be recycled, so. Yeah. You know, right now, there's not a lot of these getting into recycling, but they're beginning to be, you know, enough coming off, to start recycling the lithium. There are new chemistries coming out and so on. But to me, that's not a zoning issue. You may not like it, but if somebody wants to build one, are we gonna allow them? So I'll show you some pictures. So that's a Powerwall on the left, a Tesla Powerwall. And the print's a little small there, but on the left is the solar, the inverter from a solar system. On the right is, I don't know, the other things that basically connect this up to your house. So this is a Powerwall connected to a house in a house with solar. And then you can see a little bicycle there. This is in their garage, okay? Again, there are some code issues like how do you keep a car from crashing into that thing? But those are building code issues, not zoning issues. And then on the right is one of the bigger systems. That, you know, that thing is, the big one is probably 20 feet long. It's a huge source of storage and electricity. And you can see the air conditioning there. Again, that's where a lot of the noise is coming from. You've got to keep these things cool, and they do generate heat when they're charging or discharging. So finally, I think there's one more slide. So just for curiosity, I said, well, how big are these things? So a Powerwall stores 13.5 kilowatt hours. One of the large Generac systems stores more than 100 times as much power energy. And a Tesla Model S stores 100 kilowatt hours. So it's like 7 or 8 of these Powerwalls at Model S. That's their big car, of course. And look at the power output. The Powerwall puts out 7 kilowatts, which is probably what you need in a house for a while. That Generac system puts out 600. If you step on the gas, so to speak, in that Model S, it'll put out 650 kilowatts. It'll put out as much power as that large Generac system, but only for a few seconds before you become airborne. And they can charge at 250 kilowatts. So this is just sort of, but the regulation that you have in front of you is basically a lot like the solar regulation, but specialized to the batteries. So scrolling through now the actual regulation, you can make it zoom it in so it's a little wider. Okay. So we're adding battery storage systems in the use tables in various places. We'll keep going. We already allow solar in there, so solar energy ground mounted, and this is in the residential, I believe, right? We're still in residential. Battery energy as an accessory, and if it's a primary use, it's a special exception. And if we want to do something like if you put one of those Generac units outside of school, I forget whether we did anything special for.
So just going back to the solar energy ground mounted on a residential thing. So if you wanna put in one of these freestanding solar panels outside of your house there.
Right now, that's allowed.
It's allowed.
Yep.
Do we have, so there's no kind of setback? I mean, obviously there must be some.
12 feet in height
12
is the
foot in height is
maximum
the
height,
max.
and then you have your setbacks for your side yard accessory structure setback, so it's 10 or 20 feet depending on the zone you're in.
It's the same as a shed, basically.
12 feet in height.
Pretty ugly if you gotta look at that next to you.
Yeah, there was there's a site, what's the name of the street again?
Ridgefield.
Corner of, yeah.
Corn, Felton, Ridgefield, yeah.
They were, neighbors were pretty unhappy about that, but, you know, we could add some screening requirements, if we wanted to.
So I guess as we go through all these pages, and there's like a couple pages with just red, for me, it's like, well, what has changed? So I see on page 4 at the bottom, that's all in red, so that's all new? We don't have that? I mean, that's what Pat just asked about. ground-mounted solar energy.
This is in,
Why is it,
this is in the public and semi-public uses in a residential zone.
It's being added into that area,
oh, it's a new area?
under the,
What's happened is the page breaks have moved, okay, but basically, this is all table 311A. And there are
I see what
some,
you mean.
like if you have a school in a residential zone, we allow them to have a battery outside. I think
But
we'd
the
like,
battery thing is all new.
yeah,
We didn't have anything with batteries before. Okay.
I was just doing, cause who doesn't go to ChatGPT for everything? But there is a lot going on right now with Connecticut and the DEP, and it looks like they're even encouraging towns to kind of adopt, to your point, what's gonna be, like, should we have some language around decommissioning? Should we be, I mean,
so we have it in this draft that we've tried to build it up a little bit, so we do have.
oh, okay,
language,
so there
yeah.
is something for,
Yeah,
to
there
your
is
point.
current language in there, but we're upgrading a little bit.
so again, the commercial uses, we're still on page 5, we're still in a residential area where there is some commercial. And they can use a battery according to this draft. Table, starting on page 6, we're in commercial and industrial zones. The battery storage systems are either permitted or special exception depending on the language, which we'll get to. And then we get to a whole bunch of new definitions. So actually on page 13, you can see the old definitions are being struck out. So we have, most of the way down the page, you have the solar energy system, single device, the single device solar energy system, a large solar energy system, and somewhere there's a small one.
So did these new definitions come from any source that?
There's a model regulation that we
There's a
got from,
model,
yeah,
okay.
there's a model regulation for solars, yeah.
So it's not debatable, it's all just
Well, the
recent
single
stuff.
device
Okay.
is us, okay, that, just basically says if you got a solar powered sign, that's a sign regulation issue. So, the different kinds of accessory uses, are defined here. The small scale is like the second definition, and that's where we to be considered small, equipment must be either an accessory ground-mounted photovoltaic system that fits within a boundary consisting of no more than 1 acre, right? Or a roof-mounted system. Okay, so basically, a roof-mounted system that serves the facility itself and is not being built to sell electricity would be considered an accessory and it would be allowed to be small. So one of these 300,000 square feet warehouses, if they put a roof mounted system up there and its primary use is to serve the needs of the warehouse, then it's still small. If on the other hand, they want to sell the electricity, which such a large roof would allow them probably to make enough electricity to sell, then that would become a large system.
Let me just ask you, how would I know that when someone submits a building permit for a roof-mounted solar system? Am I supposed to ask that question, or is there something gonna be obvious to me? Like, for example, Target put it on years ago, I don't remember the.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have some of our larger facilities that do have them on there.
I think it's a fair question to ask. It's easy to ask. You ask, what's your annual electricity use and what's the annual generation of the system?
So maybe that's how you demonstrating a small versus a large
Now,
size.
the current regulations allow you to be slightly bigger than what you're gonna use. Either because you're someday planning to put an electric car in or a heat pump, when the furnace dies, I'm gonna put a heat pump in, but I just wanna build a solar system to allow for that kind of idea. But even then, you're allowed to exceed your need, I think, a few percent, okay, so, but that would be the question.
And why do we care? If it's a small or large, if it's on their property, why do we care? Is it taxed differently? Is it?
The large could have bigger impact.
The impact, we're
Just the
basically
whole
worried
noise
about the
thing and-
impact on the
okay.
neighbors, okay?
So.
And the impact being noise, the
Wouldn't a
visual.
small be the same impact? Possibly if there was a budding neighbor, or it doesn't? I don't, this is confusing. to
Well,
me.
okay, so we said 1 acre, we could have also said, no more than, no closer than X number of feet from a residence.
So this is stuff for discussion.
For yeah, well,
All right.
which I think we had in our thinking for a
Yeah,
while.
we were thinking that if it was 500 feet, I think was the number we,
Mhm.
a minimum 500 feet for a residence, for like the parts of the solar.
I like that idea.
So that could either be an or an and, okay, so if somebody wants to do a ground, the New Way Tobacco thing is, I don't know, at least 500 feet from the nearest residence.
Yeah. Certainly.
And therefore, it was fine in my mind, even though it's more than an acre. So maybe no more than 1 acre or
Minimum distance from a residence.
minimum distance, yeah. we could
I
do.
like that idea better.
Mhm. So now one that's close to a residence. I mean, ground mounted, right now you can put ground mounted solar on anywhere, any business, right?
By site plan for business. Right.
Yeah. So I guess, do we, and the 1 acre is just pulled out of a hat, okay? So is there some restriction on, when a business that's, on Sullivan Avenue backs up to a residential zone, how much solar can they put on the ground before we start to worry about the residents? And actually, really what this just does is it pushes them up into a special exception review rather than a, I mean, do you think if one of the businesses on Sullivan Avenue that has residents behind it, Aldi's, I don't know, if they wanted to put a solar farm in their backyard, and I don't know if there's too much wetland, but let's say there wasn't. If they wanted to put an acre of solar out there, would we worry about the residents, or, what's the boundary between reasonable use of a business and something we have to worry about and get us more review?
Do we see anything where there's other communities, even if it's outside the state of Connecticut, where they've kind of done that assessment, kind of like what's is there best practices that have been provided?
Yeah, I mean, we could certainly do a little bit more research. I've really not looked into like distances and those kinds of things. There's certainly some best practices for solar
Some of
fields.
these solar fields go right into people's.
Yeah, I mean,
Right, we definitely, I wouldn't.
what I find is it varies tremendously by community and by state. I mean, in Massachusetts, you see them all in every single
Yeah.
cloverleaf, right? So people are doing it differently. I think drawing from the experience that we had here is kind of where we're trying to gear this regulation. Just the kinds of questions I get about solar, just to give you an example. I had one fairly recently. It's a business on one of our major roads, and it's got a lot of wetlands in the back, and they've had a solar company approach them about coming and clearing their trees and putting solar all through the wetlands back there. So, I mean, people are looking for spots like that. This guy can't use the wetlands for building, and he's thinking, well, that sounds pretty good, maybe I'll, and would it get approved without,
The
minimal
town of
impact on
Bloomfield
a
did that
wetland?
behind their public works.
Yeah, so I mean, depending on how people, but having said that, with credits drying up on solar, you may not see solar be real big for a little while.
But I think they've just, I mean, I think the whole idea of credits was something that was gonna end anyway.
Yeah,
Now, it's ending sooner than some of us would have liked, but, you know, these things are still gonna be viable, they're still gonna save money, and, you know, maybe not so much in the next 2 or 3 years, but, down the road, so this is kind of protecting us, you know, when and if, you know, the market comes alive again.
you could always come up with a 1 acre number and see how it works out.
Keep
you
it
know, see-
conservative and
Yeah, see
then
what,
change up
what
as
kind
we
of
go.
applications you see, and if it seems to be something that's really pretty onerous, then you can look to make it larger. I mean, it's easier to start smaller and get
That's
the
why I
extra
meant
review
smaller,
than get yourself in a
Now,
big one.
process-wise, we could actually send this with any changes we discussed tonight off to CROG and still make changes before we go to a public hearing, so, be more minor, but, I don't know.
I did talk to the fire marshal, and I did get him a copy of this, and he's gonna, didn't get a chance before tonight to review it and just give us any feedback on, specifics from his perspective.
Battery okay, anything on the solar lot cover, okay, there's a couple places like on page 14,
The lot coverage, the impervious coverage.
where we say that, yeah, the lot coverage, is exempt from, the solar systems are not considered part of the lot coverage. And basically, lot coverage talks about where we've got buildings and parking lots.
Actually, our lot coverage only deals with structures. It's your
Oh, okay.
impervious coverage that deals with everything that's not green.
Sorry, yeah.
Described.
But certainly, I think scientifically, the impervious coverage is a good exception, because the water still runs off these panels and lands on the ground, you know. Really concerned about where that water's gonna go, and it's still gonna go into the ground right there. Up at the top of page 14, in commercial, industrial, and non-residential uses in residential zones like churches or schools, ground-mounted systems shall be placed so no component exceeds the setbacks in 421A. Systems taller than 12 feet should be allowed by a special exception, subject to the review criteria there. So if somebody wants to come in with a 20-foot high solar system, there might be places where we could care less. And there might be places where that would really not seem appropriate. Again, on page 17, it's a different section, so we had to repeat the coverage stuff. This is the industrial, this is large now, page 17. Really not many changes to the large. Page 16, we said emergency access, that became an issue with the Scannick Road site. And then now we can have battery storage systems installed in these things. And then page 18, we added a noise requirement that maybe Tori can help us with that.
I'll have to, one thing I was thinking about, you know, what Pat had said earlier regarding abutting residential properties, and if you're installing one of these larger units, would you require a noise study to be done, maybe?
Yeah, I think it's in here
Is
somewhere.
there? Okay, just for anything larger, for those larger units that are humming probably higher than the trans lines that we were discussing.
I mean, the importance of the noise study is to make sure they do the kind of design that doesn't cause a noise problem.
Yeah.
Because you can make these things pretty quiet, except for that darn transformer, you know, it's really a distance thing with the transformer. But the inverters, done right, are not a problem. And then on page 19, the decommissioning bond, I think somebody was asking about that. But there's some missing words there. And then, because batteries are used in so many different ways, I thought it was appropriate to add a new section for battery. Even though I started with one of the solar things and just changed it to battery everywhere. And you saw some of the language in the slides, so I don't think this is much different than, what I told you in the slideshow. Again, the last page, 22, abandonment and decommissioning. There's some design standards on noise and other things.
But see, we'd only be regulating external batteries, right? We're not really talking about internal, right? So like for the bottom of 19, we got some special exception site plan review, and then it goes on to say battery and storage system. Are we talking about external ones?
Well, we tried to make sure. I mean, even in, you know, if you put an internal battery inside a warehouse, which is probably not what they wanna do, but, they're still gonna have to have air conditioning.
Again, this could be a code issue, right? This could be a building code, fire code compliance. I'm not sure it's really a zoning issue.
Why can't they bury the batteries? We can't put them in the ground. It's cooler down there. I don't know. I'm just need to talk to the solar guy on it, but I wonder why you
I
can't.
wonder if they need
dig it.
any kind of airflow. Yeah.
Well, they need to be cooled.
Well, it's cooler underground. You
And
get
where is the
down deep
cooling
enough,
gonna be?
it's constant.
Yeah, but that's sort of like, what kind of an air conditioner do you use? You know, you could do them with ground source.
Yeah, you can do it. Well,
Heat pump or whatever, or air conditioning, yeah.
This is something that's way above our grade to figure out.
Is there anything that could leak out of a battery that would be a problem if it's buried? I mean, I think of car batteries and they have acid, but I'm guessing that these batteries we're talking about don't run on acid.
Heavy metals.
Heavy metals, yeah.
They got different metals, yeah. Lithium right now is the big one, but they're coming up with other metals that are less expensive.
I have to think that down in the ground is probably not the healthiest thing. Right?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's offering an underground system, so. I don't know, what are your thoughts on all this?
You did a great job. Good. I'm not sure many other towns would be this proactive with these things.
Well, we actually, when we did the first solar regulation, we were a leader in the town. And a lot of towns got copies of our regs and more or less copied them, but, yeah.
As long as we don't end up like East Windsor.
Hmm?
As long as we don't end up like East Windsor.
Yeah.
They're going for more on that.
But that was a siting
Siting
council thing.
Yeah.
They didn't do their job.
The siting council?
Yeah, I mean, they let that noise, they let all those inverters be put right across the street from somebody's house.
That's right.
You know,
Can they fix that?
for
I
millions
know
of
that
dollars.
they've been having, you know, when we went out there, they were having some discussions with siting council, and they'd made a visit out to the site, so hopefully it was
Yeah.
being reviewed.
They can certainly mitigate it by enclosing or building walls, changing to distributed inverters would be pretty much a starting over situation.
It's all new trenches, it's all new conduit, all new wire.
So I guess the question is, we can send this off to CROG, but on the other hand, now I think that you understand what it's trying to do, maybe take another hard look at it. Because when it comes back from CROG and they say we like it or we don't like it, make these changes, we'll go to a public hearing with whatever we have at that time, so.
How quick would CROG be able to respond to
They
something?
have
like this?
35 days.
Yeah, the 35 days.
How long do they usually take to respond?
You know, it really depends on when you hit them, because they have a monthly meeting that it goes to, right? So it depends on if you hit it, you then you get a response quicker. Like I just got letters last week for a month, so.
Steve, my thought on what you just said is most people, me included, don't know a whole lot about solar and batteries. Like, to get into the nitty-gritty of this, I could not do what you did. My guess would be, in a public hearing, what we will attract are people who, because they have some personal interest or investment, will come and voice their opinion, all worth listening to, and to me, that would drive changes that we would wanna make. Other than that, I don't know that I would have the basis to say anything should be changed.
And I think now that we have Tori, I'd definitely like you to go through this if you haven't had a chance already.
Yeah, get my
I'll
solar
fill them
hat.
in, I'll fill them in the details, the gory details of our application,
A real
Can know what-
engineer can look at this and probably in a different light.
Challenges are.
Yeah, I can, yeah, I haven't had a chance to go through it with a fine tooth comb yet, but, I will. Yeah, within the time we send it to Prague, get their comments back, I'll have a much, I mean, this presentation was great, just to get the background, so I'll do my due diligence, that's for sure.
All right, moving on the agenda. The bond, I think we did, right?
You guys are gonna laugh when you see this bond. So it's the decommissioning bond for the solar, and, you know, this is a 20-year decommissioning bond, so I was given an estimate, it comes out to $196,000 for 20 years. So, speaking with the town attorney, he and I agreed that it would be appropriate for the commission to potentially approve a surety bond for this as opposed to a letter of credit.
I see.
Because it's a 20-year bond. Just so you know, how it works too is you have a zoning regulation that is also an enforceable regulation. If they don't notify you that they're decommissioning, you could go into an enforcement procedure, and the bond is to ensure the removal of all products. So, we did get it, and it was amortized for 20 years out, so the number in front of you is a 20-year number that's been put together.
Anybody wanna make a motion?
Alan,
Who has the bond?
here, give it to Alan, because I wouldn't feel right.
Oh, thank you.
He's got it, all right.
Oh, the bond setting, okay, I do have this. Make a motion to approve the bond setting of application 24-46P, C-Tech Solar at 379 Scantic Road. Planning Department recommends a decommission bond in the amount of $194,800 to be held for the life of the project, approximately 20 years. Staff further recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission allow such bond to be be posted as a surety bond.
So we can take the recommendation part out and this is what, rephrase it, so,
Your motion to approve this.
Yeah, I can strike the last sentence if that's.
well, also the planning department recommends, just require a decommissioning bond and,
Oh, okay, I could just rewrite it again.
yeah,
Bond setting application 24-46P, C-Tech Solar, 379 Scantic Road for the amount of $194,800 to be held for the life of the project, approximately 20 years.
a decommissioning bond in the amount, yes.
A
okay.
decommission bond, yes.
Second,
And do we wanna say a surety bond or in there somewhere? You should
Surety
work
bond,
on it.
yes.
Yeah, I'll word, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Any other bonds?
No, that's all you have tonight.
Any other old business?
No, I do have one comment on your two applications to be received, though. The first one, you sell fine homes, that is actually, the Neary interior lot that was approved way back in 2010. Who was here? Any of you guys here? Okay, so if you remember the history on that, it was approved and trees got removed and trees had to get replanted. Well, it's this lot that has been sitting idle for a long time and now they're relocating where the house is gonna go. I would like to have the applicant notify the abutters, which would not be required under a site plan application modification. But because this went through such a somewhat controversial public hearing way back when, I think it's really fair that voters know that there's a new proposal that's moving forward, so.
That makes sense.
You agree with that, I'll direct the applicant. Okay. And then the second one is just a, regular application. Okay. That's all I've got for you.
Motion to adjourn?
Second, all in favor? Aye.